Hello, my name is Neha Kulshresht. I'm an assistant professor in Indian Sign Language Research and Training Center. I am here with my colleague, Mr. Sachin Singh, who is a deaf and teaches in Indian Sign Language Research and Training Center. Today we are going to talk about the sublexical structure of signs. In this unit, we'll talk about how signs are formed, their parameters, and its sublexical structure with respect to feature, syllable, and sonority. We'll also talk about gesture, sign formation parameters, handedness, minimal pairs, dynamic and static features, assimilation, etc. My name is Sachin Singh. And I work at ISLRTC as sign language instructor. In this unit, we'll focus on the sublexical structure of Indian Sign Language with an emphasis on description of signs following signs from Indian Sign Language Dictionary 2001. We'll talk about gestures and signs. It is often assumed that signs used in sign language and gesture are identical. However, the studies have demonstrated that gestures are idiosyncratic, context-dependent, with no evidence for parts of speech, and can have different meanings in different contexts, typically mapping to an entire event. On the other hand, sign is syntactic, context-free, compositional, and has rule-governed sequence, and signs have a basic core of meaning constant to all contexts. A sign can be dissected into its formational parameters and establish its sublexical structure. Further, signs could be described by a finite set of discrete arbitrary units that the parameters are not combined arbitrarily but linguistically reflecting the duality of structure and are organized simultaneously, unlike words of spoken language. In sign language, two manual articulators, that is, hands, can be used to articulate two different signs at the same time. This simultaneous articulation of two different signs is treated as two-word sequences. The various facial expressions, often called non-manual expressions, is a part of a sign and are articulated with the manual signs that serves to distinguish between various signs. So what are these parameters? Sublexical inventory of Indian Sign Language. In Indian Sign Language, the sign formation parameters are hand shape, orientation, location, movement, and expression. These 5 parameters are combined with one another to form a sign. A change in any of these parameters produces another sign or change in meaning and grammatical function and or nonce sign too. So the first parameter is hand shape. Hand shape is a particular distinct configuration assumed by the manual articulators. It can be of one hand or two hands. Hand shapes are differentiated by the spatial configuration of the hand, that is extension, contraction, contact or divergence, and arrangement of the fingers and the thumb. Each of these shapes is a distinct shape, and only a subset of possible hand shapes is permitted in a particular sign language. This shows that linguistic constraints on hand shape operate from the motor limitations. A signer is linguistically either left-hand or right-hand dominant. Depending on which typically executes one-handed signs, it is distinguished as active or dominant hand and base, passive or non-dominant hand. Signs are made either with a single hand or with a double hand, and this aspect of configuration is called handedness. Now we'll talk about orientation. Orientation refers to the direction in which the surface of the palm along with the fingertips face with respect to the signer's body. Although orientation is dependent on hand shape, the palm surface can take three types of orientation. Front, palm surface is visible to the signer. Back, palm surface is not visible to the signer, and neutral, neither front nor back. The fingertips can be as follows: against the mid-sagittal plane, toward the mid-sagittal plane, towards the addressee, towards the signer, towards the sky, or towards the ground. Next we are going to discuss location. Signs are articulated either in contact with the signer's body or in the signing space in front of the signer. The former location is called body location. A loci located in this specific part of the body, and the latter is called the signing space. We'll give you few examples. For example, forehead. Now forehead we can sign yellow, summer, sick, problem, Mysore, a place, Mysore, king, India. They all sign on the forehead. They can't be signed anywhere else. Next we'll see ear. The words are famous. You can't sign it from the nose. You can sign it on the ear. Deaf. It's related to the ear. Deaf is related to the ear. The other place is cheekbones. We can sign angry. Angry is signed on the cheekbone. So angry can be signed within this area from forehead to the cheekbone. The other location is mouth. So for example, party, say. Other location, the next location is neck. So we can sign clever on the neck or necklace on the neck. The next location is shoulders. So these words which can be signed on the shoulder is responsible, difficult. So there are two signs for difficult. So one is signed on the shoulder, the other is signed in the front of the chest. Now the signs which can be signed on the chest are faith, sorry, like. On stomach, what are the signs we can sign on stomach? The stomach is hungry. When you laugh, so eating is related to the stomach. So hungry is signed on the stomach. There are many locations on the body where a sign can be signed. However, we only chose few examples to illustrate. Similarly, we know that liver can only be signed on the stomach because that is its position. Heart can only be signed on the chest because that is where heart is. There are different body parts which can be signed for different purposes. In Indian Sign Language, apple is articulated in front of the signer's mouth, while jealous is articulated at the chest level, marking a distinction in horizontal plane, high and low. The next parameter is movement. Movement is the kinetic motion of the manual articulators in the formation of a sign in a single locus or loci or across the loci, and varies in shape, size, tempo, direction and dynamics. It occurs in a single motion or in a sequence or simultaneously or both sequentially and simultaneously within a sign. We'll show you few examples. Twisting. The example of twisting, like dance, towel, bell, mixer, motor, scooter. These are all examples of twisting. Now, the other movement is circular. For example, cook. You can't cook without going circular. So you have to cook. That is why the sign is in a circular motion. Round, often is tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. That is daily, daily, daily. That's why it's often or always. That is the movement. The other movement is opening, where the hand opens. For example, hate, angry, carom, surprise, bright. So it opens. The next movement is closing. So for example, mosquito, orange, chat, perfume, duck or dog. Waving. The next motion is waving, like bye-bye, peacock, goat or place called Nagpur. The different movements associated with the sign. Now we'll give the path movement in terms of the directions. So the path movement will be happy. So you can see the hand moving up in direction. You can't say happy when the sign goes down. Proud. Umbrella. Umbrella opens up. So the sign is up. The signs for down would be birth, because you know that baby is born downwards. Person, coming from head to toe. Person. So building goes up because building can be built from down to up. It progresses that way. But for person, you always refer from head to toe. The signs for out, outward direction, see, tell, walk, concentrate, thank you. For the inward direction, you have accept, defend, drink, hungry. Path movement in terms of shapes, be Now, path movement in terms of shapes in Indian Sign Language would be straight. In straight, the examples would be give, evening, red, marry, person. Other shape would be semicircle, day, so it's one day, baby, see, talk. So the next hand shape would be, the next path movement would be wavy. For example, squirrel, frog, lizard, lady's finger, etc. The next is circle, like run, skip, sign, teach, etc. In terms of the size of the path movement, the size could be big, medium, small. In big, we have tall, wedding, person, exercise, mountain. In terms of medium, it is finish, children, body, circle. In terms of small, it would be clean, color, yellow, etc. In terms of dynamics of path movement in Indian Sign Language, we can have fast, slow, normal. In fast, it would be must, break, perfect. So you have to sign fast. In slow, it would be but, and, bend. If you sign bend fast, it would mean break. So the meaning would change. So you have to sign slow. And then the other example would be freeze. In normal, the various signs can be signed in the normal pace. The last parameter is expressions. The non-manual articulation such as eye movement, eye gaze, facial expression, lip orification, brow movement, etc. is collectively called expression. There are a number of signs of which expression is an integral part of the sign. Example, dark, bright, fat, Hanuman, etc. Next, we are going to talk about minimal pairs. The 5 formational parameters can combine to form a sign. And any change in one of these parameters yields changes in meaning or grammatical functions. So the minimal pairs of hand shape in Indian Sign Language are tea and coffee. Everything is same, just the hand shape is different. So tea and coffee are minimal pairs, or beg and bowl. So the hand shape is different. The other example is beg and bowl. In both of these, everything is same except for the hand shape. Hand shapes are different. Then we have mouse or lizard, and snake and squirrel. Remember and know. Head and brain. Red and color. Next, we are going to discuss about the movement in minimal pairs of the Indian Sign Language. So you have drop and pick. One goes downward, the other upward. You have Calcutta and business. Calcutta has medium circles and business has big circles. Accuse and bad. Sign structure, features and syllable. In sign language, the hand shape, orientation, and the location parameters do not require reference to motion, unlike movement. Therefore, the former parameters can be stated as static feature and the latter as dynamic feature in sign language phonology. In Indian Sign Language, signs can be static, like good, etc. Further, a sign can be dynamic by having a local movement but no path movement, like mother, corn, orange. In addition, signs are found to be dynamic on account of having a path movement, only like give, help, fly, etc., but no local movement. To summarize, local movement results in change of hand shape, orientation, and maybe without any change of the both. Path movement, on the other hand, accounts for changes in location. Both these movements can combine into a sign. The notion of syllable in sign language from its foundation is based on the analogy that movement is what vowels are in spoken language. In other words, in sign language, movements are more perspicuous than segments in which hands remain in a single position. Perlmutter, 1992, assumes that movement and position are two basic segments, signs which indicate dynamic and static feature complexes respectively. Now we are going to discuss about phonological rules. Some of the specific processes from Indian Sign Language are illustrated below. The first is economy condition. Economy condition says if a double-handed sign has path movement, then both the hands have the same path movement. The next is weak drop. In ISL, flower or give, etc. are specified as a double-handed symmetric sign in lexicon, but can be articulated with the dominant hand. In contrast, sign, milk, etc. are similarly specified in the lexicon, but cannot be articulated with a single hand. The next feature is weak freeze. In Indian Sign Language, there are also signs in which the non-dominant hand has the same hand shape, location, and orientation of the dominant hand, but movement is absent. In the sign language literature, this phenomenon is known as weak freeze. The next feature is assimilation. When a compound is established, the two signs blend and eventually the compound looks like only one sign. It is subjected to phonological processes of assimilation and reduction. In Indian Sign Language, progressive and regressive assimilation take place in compounding with respect to hand shape, orientation, location, movement, and handedness. To summarize, let's say this unit provided a detailed inventory of sign language formation parameters in Indian Sign Language. On the basis of these parameters, minimal pairs are detested. On the basis of these parameters, minimal pairs are attested. A sign is assumed to be composed of two features, static and dynamic, which form the basis of position and movement segments, respectively. Based on the dynamic information, a syllable nucleus is identified and the sonority hierarchy is stated for Indian Sign Language. The morphophonemic structure of signs and the phonological processes and rules in sign language are also discussed. We are also acquainted with the method to transcribe signs illustrated in the Indian Sign Language Dictionary.